Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. This is Shyam Kaggod here, taking up the Hindu news analysis dated 16th May 2025. Before I start the discussion, please do let me know in the chat section that I'm audible and visible for everyone. Am I audible and visible for everyone? Okay, done. Let's start the discussion then. So, to make the discussion very comprehensive and to address all your current affairs requirement for the civil services examination, I've taken a total of 11 articles. 9 of them are from the Hindu newspaper Delhi edition, and 2 of them are from Indian Express. This is done in order to address and take care of all of your current affairs requirement. So, if you like this initiative, do hit the like button. If you're yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Let me start the discussion, but before that, three very important things. First one, after the session is over, those who want to download the PPT that I'm using in the session, you can join my Telegram channel. After the session ends, the PPT will be uploaded there. Second one, today, Science and Technology Marathon session will be taken up by Himabindu ma'am. All of you, please join the session, especially those who are attempting the upcoming prelims examination. There will be a detailed discussion of all the important portions. Third one, in order to address and to make the learning much more comprehensive, increase the efficiency of the learners so that all your requirements to ace the prelims examination as well as the mains examination are taken care of. Unacademy IAS has come out with a program by the name of Platinum. Those who are interested, a free session is available even today, live from 7 p.m. Enroll for this, the link for which is provided in the description below. Let me start the discussion now. The first very important article, Article 21, does it include right to digital access? Does the Article 21 include right to digital access? Yesterday, we had a discussion regarding one of the judgment or let's say the orders of the Supreme Court of India, where the Supreme Court of India has directed the states to formulate a framework to ensure the right to walk on the footpaths essentially is protected under Article 21. Now, before couple of days before, the Supreme Court of India has issued one more order, one more judgment, where it has directed the government regarding the digital access policy. That is under Article 21, the Supreme Court of India now says the citizens have right to digital access. Let's understand what are the important things associated with the concept of a digital access here. Point number one, the government of India back in the year 2007 ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Persons with Disabilities. And following the ratification of the convention in the year 2016, the government of India implemented an act by the name of Rights of Persons with Disabilities, RPWD, under which different categories of disabilities were categorized and certain protection, certain reforms, measures were announced by the government essentially to protect the rights of the people with disabilities or Divyangajan. Under RPWD, the government of India has expanded the categories of disabilities. Right now, 21 categories are listed as disabilities under RPWD. This is point number one. Point number two, historically, if you see, there are various provisions in the Constitution of India, be it under the fundamental right, be it under, right, let's say the directive principles of the state policies, etc., through which the government, both at the central as well as the state level, has been taking measures, has been taking steps in order to promote access, in order to promote empowerment of persons with disabilities. But having said so, there have been various instances. There have been various instances where we have seen, despite the reforms, despite the measures which have been implemented, we are seeing that there is a divide in the society that is existing, and that is generally ensuring that the people, or the, let's say, the Divyangajans, are not able to get access, are not able to lead a normal life just like others do. For example, have a look at the term digital access here. Let me connect it to current affairs. Have a look at the term digital access. In the digital access, let me focus on one type of, let's say, financial instrument or a financial service here, banking. Let's say there is an individual who wants to open a bank account. When you will go to the bank, they will basically ask you to fill up all the forms. They will also basically say you'll have to come under KYC norms, KYC guidelines, or KYC norms. KYC essentially stands for know your client or know your customer. And the KYC guidelines is not just associated with the banking sector. KYC is associated with the, let's say, the mutual fund industry. It is associated with, right, let's say, pension sector. It is associated with many other financial services providers as well. What is the requirement of a KYC? According to the government rules and regulations, under the PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, it is necessary for the service provider to establish who is the real customer. And in case there is any fault, in case there is any wrong information or any information that they need to convey to the government or the government entity such as a financial intelligence unit, they will provide this information to the government authorities. So, because of these guidelines, every entity, every authority that is providing the financial services has to undertake an activity called as a KYC, know your customer, know your client guidelines. When you apply for, let's say, opening a bank account, the bank will basically ask you to satisfy the KYC norms. That is, you will have to establish your identity. But these norms for, right, a normal person will not be a problem, especially normal people who are living in urban areas, that is cities. What about, let's say, people residing in rural areas? Think of this, that is in villages. What about people who are bedridden? What about people who are facing disabilities, etc.? In such cases, these kind of KYC norms or the guidelines become a hindrance. So, on one side, the government is implementing various policies, reforms, measures to improve or to basically facilitate the services being provided to, or let's say, the, the life or the quality of life of the peoples with the disabilities to improve. But on the other side, there are also policies such as KYC norms which will hinder the access to financial services. I'll just give you a couple of examples here. 2 years ago, I don't know how many of you remember the case. 2 years ago, that is in 2023, there was a 70-year-old woman. Understand this, 70-year-old woman who was forced to go to the branch of State Bank of India just to withdraw the pension. 70-year-old woman was forced to go to, right, walk all the way with the help of a chair, mind you, with the help of a chair, all the way to a State Bank of India branch to withdraw pension. There was one more instance where a 100-year-old woman, bedridden woman, was dragged on the bed to the branch of the bank by the daughter in order to receive the government benefits. So there have been instances where there is a divide in the society, and that is very much visible in terms of getting access to the financial services. On the other hand, there have been certain reforms also. Have a look at this kind of a reform. You can quote this in the exam as well. Reserve Bank of India has launched a app by the name of Money, MANI, Money, mobile aided note identifier. The Money app will basically help the peoples with the disabilities such as blind people essentially identify what is the denomination of the currency that they are holding. Is the point clear to all of you? What is the denomination of the currency? The money app will tell you whether this is a 50 rupee currency note, whether this is a 100 rupee currency note, 200 rupee currency note. But please understand the point here. It will only give you the denomination of the currency. It will not tell you whether the currency note is a counterfeit or a original currency. So government of India, for example, here Reserve Bank of India has implemented certain policy which is helping people with disabilities, right, with certain services. But what is the issue here? Why Supreme Court of India had to interfere, issue an order, issue a judgment under Article 21, citing under Article 21 that there should be a right to digital access. There have been instances where the banks have basically provided these kind of services, that is the KYC services, through a third party service provider. That is, let's say a bank has to perform a KYC process. Instead of the bank performing the KYC process directly, it will hand over this particular activity to a third party, another entity, and the third party will conduct the KYC. And in certain instances, let's say there are acid attack victims. Let's say there are, right, let's say victims who are not able to perform the normal activities, such as, let's say, movement of the neck, or let's say they are not able to walk properly, etc. In such cases, there have been examples where the third party service providers, that is the KYC providers, have rejected their application, have rejected their applications, and they have basically said these are not able to satisfy the KYC requirements. Why? Generally, in case of KYC, what generally happens is, let's say there is a video KYC. Very recently, I had to go through this. In a video KYC, which I basically was undergoing the KYC process, the person on the other side asked me to switch on the camera. I switch on the camera. Then the person asked me to move my head left and right just to see that I'm a person and not a photo of anybody. I moved my right neck left and right. They asked me to take the camera, go outside the home and show me, right, let's say surroundings. They asked me to show me the door of the house, etc. Just to ascertain, I hope you understand, just to ascertain that I'm a person, I'm residing in the address that I've quoted, etc. Now imagine there is an acid attack victim, and in this case, when the person is an acid attack victim, lot of facial expressions will be constrained. They will feel they will undergo a lot of pain to basically even move, right, let's say the eyelids like this, and lot of their eyes will also be not open like a normal person because of the acid attack. In such cases, there have been examples where the KYC applications have been rejected and the access to financial services also have been rejected. And that is the reason why the Supreme Court of India now says, understand this, Supreme Court of India now says there is a need to provide the digital access as a right to life. This will be defined under Article 21 as a right to, or as a part of right to life. And now we need to change the whole process. And this directive or this order which has been issued by the Supreme Court, it is not just linked to the banking sector, mind you. It is not just targeting the banking sector. All the other departments of the government will also have to take a note of this. They will have to make changes in the policies in such a way that these restrictions or these kind of policies will not act as a hurdle, will not act as an impediment for the peoples with disabilities. So the Supreme Court of India has used a principle of substantive equality. Remember this. The Supreme Court has quoted the principle of substantive equality, which basically quotes that, or which explains that when you need to provide certain services to people, you need to ensure there is a right access or equal access of services. It is not just providing the services to both of them. Two people might be in a different position. For example, one person is a Divyangajan, another person is, right, let's say, person with full mobility. Just providing banking service to both of them will not suffice. The first person who is belonging to, right, the PWD, This person has to be provided services which are, right, let's say, more substantive services, which will basically increase the access on the equal footing. That is, the access to services will be made on equal level to a normal person like this. So principle of substantive equality has been quoted by the Supreme Court of India, and now the KYC guidelines will have to be changed. The policies of different departments of government of India will have to take a note of this. They will also have to change the policies. And so this is the first article associated with digital access, Supreme Court's order under Article 21. Now, one more judgment that you need to remember is Rajiv Raturi versus Union of India 2024. In this particular judgment, the Supreme Court of India mentioned that accessibility is a central to the right to life, dignity, and freedom of movement under Article 21. Remember these two judgments, you can quote them in the mains examination. Now, associated with this, I've given one question for you to practice mains answer writing. The right to digital access will help in addressing digital divide as well as promote financial inclusion. Elaborate. 250 words, a 15 marker question. Mind you, I hope you understand this. Some of you will basically ask me the questions are how this is connected. That is a digital divide, digital access, financial inclusion. How all of these three are connected. Supreme Court of India has made a note of the point that there is a digital divide that is present in India. And this digital divide is not just harming or let's say restricting the access for the PWDs. It is also essentially hurting the access for pensioners, right? Senior citizens, old age people, people residing in villages, etc. For example, let me give you one idea here. All of you heard of Jam Trinity? Do let me know in the chat section. All of you heard of Jam Trinity? What is Jam Trinity? Janadhan, Aadhaar, and Mobile. Okay, Jam Trinity basically stands for Janadhan, Aadhaar, and Mobile. Now, in the context of Jam Trinity, which is one pillar which is holding back the success of the Jam Trinity. If you look at the three pillars, the Janadhan, most of the population which belongs to the BPL population, now they can easily get access to the banking account. They can go to the banks, open Janadhan Yojana accounts. It is not a restriction to open, or it is not a problem for the poor population in India to open a bank account now. Not at all a problem. What about Aadhaar? 99% of the population has been given Aadhaar also now. What is the third pillar? Mobile connectivity. Many experts argue that it is this pillar which is holding back the success of Jam Trinity in India. It is this pillar, that is the mobile connectivity. What is the point of having right mobile connectivity as a Jam or part of Jam Trinity? First, you ask the poor people to open the bank account. Now, right, the funds or let's say the benefits that the poor people are supposed to receive will be transferred into their Jandhan Yojana accounts. And the argument is the poor people can, or these beneficiaries can use a mobile banking connectivity to either withdraw the money or transfer the money. But don't you think, compared to urban part in the rural areas, mobile connectivity is weaker? When I say mobile connectivity, internet, right, availability is weaker. I'm not saying not present, I'm saying weaker. You're expecting all the beneficiaries, let's say Manrega employees, to have smartphone then. And even if they have a smartphone and internet connectivity is very, very fast, let's assume that. Even if they have a smartphone and the internet connectivity is very fast in rural India, we're expecting people such as agriculture labor, Manrega labor, etc., to know how to conduct digital banking. All of you able to understand this? We're expecting them to know how to conduct a digital banking. That is, use, right, let's say, the app, right, register for the app, then have, right, let's say, a PIN code for the app, a password for the app. Then the OTP will come to you. You are expected to use the OTP for the fund transfer, etc. So I hope you understand. It is this third pillar that is essentially holding back the success of JAM Trinity. And that is the precise reason why Government of India is trying out different types of tools, essentially to reduce the burden on the beneficiaries like this to have digital knowledge. Should they have digital knowledge? Yes, we would prefer them to have digital knowledge. But the fact of the matter is, you're expecting this from rural population, senior citizen, right? Where there is a large gap of digital literacy. Is it okay? Right. So these are certain points here. So there is a connection. Digital access will reduce digital divide, and it will also help us promoting financial inclusion. Connect all the 3 points. Okay. Let me go forward. Let me go forward. Should NOTA be included in all elections compulsorily? There is a PIL in the Supreme Court now asking the Supreme Court of India to issue an order so that NOTA will be included in all the elections. What do you mean by all the elections here? Some of you will basically ask me, sir, does it mean in all the elections NOTA is not available today? My dear, according to RPA, Representations of People's Act of 1951, specifically under this, Section 53.2, Section 53.2, if there is any election and if there is only one candidate, understand this, if there is an election and there is only one candidate, in such cases, there is no election that is conducted. The candidate who is present or who is right there in the election, they will be elected unopposed. They will be elected unopposed, and the elections shall not be held in the first place. My point clear to everyone? Do let me know. Right? NOTA is present, yes, in all the Lok Sabha elections now, 2014, 2019, 2024. In these Lok Sabha elections, NOTA is used. But what if for a constituency there is only one candidate? Let's say there were multiple candidates who had filed application, but at the last moment, all these candidates withdrew their candidacy, and only one candidate is left in the fray, right? Or let's say left in the right elections now. In such cases, this candidate will be elected unopposed, and there shall not be any election conducted. But the argument of certain experts is, if you do not conduct elections, in such cases, if you do not conduct elections, then don't you think people who wanted to vote NOTA, none of the above, the people, that is the electorate, the people who wanted to cast the vote under NOTA, they will be right, losing their right to vote, because now they are not able to express their right voting. They are not able to express their choice. They will be losing this particular right to vote, and that is the precise reason there is a petition in the Supreme Court of India asking the Supreme Court of India to issue directive to the government so that in all the elections held, there shall be NOTA included. Even if there is one candidate, let the elections be held. Let the election be held. And if the people want to vote for this candidate, let them vote. And if people want to vote for NOTA, let them vote. This is essentially in the Supreme Court now. Supreme Court of India is hearing the issue. Very recently, certain arguments which have been put forward by the Election Commission of India have been given in the article here. Let me give you both the sides of the argument so that you have a comprehensive understanding of the issue. What is the viewpoint of Election Commission of India in this particular regard? Point number one, the Election Commission of India simply says this idea that lot of let's say lot of seats are right going lots of the seats in the elections are unopposed, and lot of these candidates are unopposed. No elections are being held. This is not true. If you look at the elections in India from 1971 till now, only in 6 cases there has been uncontested elections. Only in 6 cases. If you go back to 1950, from 1950, if you see till now, only in 9 instances there have been right a candidate which has been elected unopposed. The argument is this is happening very frequently. The voters are losing their right to vote, etc. This is incorrect. This is incorrect. This is happening once in a while. It's not a common occurrence in the elections conducted in India. This is the first argument. Second argument of Election Commission of India is, anyways, NOTA has been a failure in India. Listen to me very carefully. The Election Commission of India has argued that NOTA has been a failure in India. Why? If you look at the Lok Sabha elections in 2014, 2019, and 2024, hardly around 1% of the total votes cast have been in favor of NOTA. Hardly around 1%. Which means even today, the argument that the electors are voting and choosing the candidate, that holds true. Hardly 1% of the votes have been cast in NOTA or for NOTA. So, what is the point of having NOTA? That is the second argument. Third argument is, if you want to make NOTA as a part of elections in all the elections, then the amendment has to be done to RPA, Representations of People's Act of 1951, and that has to be done by legislature. That is parliament. Let the parliament take it up. They want to change it, it is under the powers of the legislature. Fourth one, it is a very, right, let's say, costly exercise in India to conduct elections. The Election Commission of India has to dedicate lot of resources to conduct elections. Now imagine in a constituency where there is only one candidate. Just to conduct elections, I will now have to dedicate lot of resources. Anyways, this candidate is going to get elected, because even if the NOTA gets the majority of the votes, the next candidate, because NOTA is not a candidate under election, the next candidate who will get the maximum number of or second highest votes will be essentially the elected candidate. So why simply conduct elections? It will basically lead to utilization of lot of resources. Election Commission of India has to conduct elections throughout the part of India, throughout the length and breadth of India. This is unnecessarily going to increase the burden on Election Commission of India. These are certain points which have been, right, put forward by representative lawyer representing Election Commission of India in the Supreme Court. But having said so, there are certain counterpoints as well. There are certain counterpoints. Please make a note of all these counterpoints as well. The first one, Supreme Court of India itself mentioned this earlier. What if a candidate who gets less than 5% of votes? Imagine an election is conducted, a candidate gets less than 5% of the votes which have been polled. Don't you think this candidate which has got or who has got less than 5%, imagine this is the highest number of votes, will represent the whole constituency? I hope you understand, will represent the whole constituency in the parliament. Don't you think there is something wrong in this case? Because this is not a candidate who is representing majority of the constitution or majority of the voters. This candidate has got less than 5% of the votes. So don't you think there should be some recourse to this? This is one point which has been put forward by Supreme Court of India. Second one, second one, listen to me very carefully now. When Election Commission of India says NOTA has been a failure, there is a very big counter argument to that. What is the counter argument? There is one analysis which has been conducted. There is one analysis which has been conducted by the State Election Commission of Maharashtra. Nitin says NOTA is actually useless. My dear Nitin, listen to me. Right? There is an analysis which was conducted by the State Election Commission of Maharashtra. And this State Election Commission found that in large number of cases or in a substantial number of cases, especially at the lowest level, I'm talking about the lowest level, that is the third tier government, it has been found that, that is in the local government elections, it has been found that in certain number of positions, NOTA has received the highest number of votes, more than the winning candidate. I hope you understand. it has got more number of votes than the winning candidate. Again, I'm talking about the third tier government here, local elections. So the argument for, right, let's say NOTA here in this case is, many experts say that you have not given sufficient powers to implement NOTA. And what do you mean by sufficient powers? Even if NOTA gets the highest votes, you are not giving any effect to that. Any other candidate who is getting the second highest votes after NOTA is declared as a winner. Why not provide certain teeth to NOTA? Provide power, provide teeth to NOTA. Meaning what? In many of these local elections, for example, in Haryana, for example, in Maharashtra, at the local level elections, now the state election commissions have announced, if the NOTA gets the highest votes, then there shall be re-elections. Very simple. There shall be re-elections conducted. Although they have not barred the losing candidates from recontesting the elections, but they have said if the NOTA gets the highest votes, there shall be re-elections conducted. So there are arguments in favor of doing away with the NOTA. There are arguments in providing more teeth to NOTA so that the whole system becomes much more efficient, much more effective. And by the way, the whole idea of introducing NOTA, one of the objectives of introducing NOTA was that because the political parties will be worried that the electorate, that is the, right, let's say the voters might vote more for NOTA, they will be forced to have a very good candidate contesting the elections. I hope you understand. Because the concern was there were multiple candidates with criminal backgrounds which were contesting elections. There are multiple, right, let's say the contestants who are basically not fit for, right, fighting the elections. So in such cases, the voters might choose NOTA, and this will send a signal to the political parties to field better candidate in that constituency. That was one of the objectives for introduction of NOTA after 2013 in it. But anyways, these are certain points in the favor of NOTA against the concept of NOTA, which is there in the discussion. But what is the argument at the end of the whole discussion here? Can we introduce reforms? Can we introduce reforms? Again, this is a question which has been put forward by Supreme Court of India to the government, not an order, not a judgment. Can we introduce reforms under RPA saying that if NOTA will get, let's say, more than 5%, in such cases, there shall be re-elections. Or if a candidate will get less than these many percentage of votes, right, let's say, let's conduct re-election. So this is essentially the debate that is happening. This is a continuing, right, let's say, exercise, or let's say this is being held, the hearings are being held by the Supreme Court of India. Very often you will come across this in the newspaper. Let me go forward. Next article. Next article is associated with the presidential reference regarding the Supreme Court order on the timelines associated with the state bills. Now, yesterday, Sarmat sir has already had a discussion regarding this. I will not enter into the same discussion. If you're yet to watch it, the video is available in our in our YouTube channel. Please have a look at it. Let me discuss something else that is there in the newspaper in addition to what has been discussed by Sarmat sir yesterday. Important points. Earlier, there was a judgment issued by the Supreme Court of India under Article 142. This is there in the newspaper for multiple reasons, not just political, right, let's say, associated with the judgments associated in polity, but also economic related judgments also as well. So Article 142, under this, the Supreme Court of India issued an order essentially fixing a timeline for the governor to provide assent to the bills which are passed by the state governments. And the argument of the Supreme Court of India was that in many cases, not just in Tamil Nadu, but also in many cases across India in multiple states, it has been found that the governors are delaying the implementation of the bills. For whatever reason, don't worry about it. For whatever reason, there is a delay in the implementation of the, the government which has been elected by the people. So the argument is, can we change the process how the bills are given the assent by the governor? And that is the reason a timeline has been fixed by the Supreme Court of India. That should be clear to you. This has been discussed multiple times in the last 1.5 months. Now, what has the government of India done? That is through the President of India, a presidential reference under Article 143. A presidential reference under Article 143 has been sent to the Supreme Court of India. It has been sent to Supreme Court of India. And under Article 143, it simply states that any issue, the Constitution has given this power to the President of India. That is, any issue which is associated with law or a fact, this can be referred to by the President of India to the Supreme Court, and advice shall be sought. Advice can be sought from the Supreme Court. This is essentially the power given to the President of India under Article 143. Now, as usual with many issues in India, there is a divide. Divide in the sense whether this presidential reference is correct or incorrect. And as usual, there are arguments in favor of this reference. There are arguments opposition to reference as well. I'll tell you about the points in a minute. But more importantly, please make a note of these particular points. The president power to refer the matter to seek advice from the Supreme Court of India is given under Article 143. And whenever such a reference is done, the Supreme Court of India shall set up a constitutional bench. A constitutional bench of how many judges? At least 5 judges. At least 5 judges. A constitutional bench shall be set up. Is it mentioned under Article 143? No, it is mentioned under Article 145.3. Please make a note of this. Right? UPSC can ask you this in the form of a statement. When the reference is provided, when the president will send reference to the Supreme Court of India, the Supreme Court shall set up a bench of 5 judges. Again, up to the Supreme Court of India. They shall set up a bench of 5 people, of 5 justices. But this is mentioned under Article 145, right, subclause 3. That is, here, make a note of this. Now, next point. Are there any past instances, any examples in the past where, right, such a reference has been sent by President of India to the Supreme Court? Please remember the examples. Back in the year 2012, there was a presidential reference regarding 2G case. All of you heard of this? 2G telecom case. Right, back in the year 2002, there was one more presidential reference regarding conducting elections in Gujarat. State elections, state level elections to be conducted in Gujarat. There was a presidential reference. Back in the year 1992, right, there was also a reference to the Supreme Court by the president regarding Ayodhya. So these are some of the examples in recent times. Again, easier to remember: 2012, 2002, and 1992. Right? Essentially -10 like this. So these are the very famous presidential references. Right? Again, just for sake of information, remember it. You can, if required, quote it in the mains examination as well. Now, next point. Whenever a presidential reference is done, is it mandatory for the Supreme Court of India's advice, right? Let's say to be followed by the President of India? Should the President of India mandatory follow the advice given by the Supreme Court? Answer to this question is no. It's not mandatory. It's not binding on the President of India. It is simply an advice. Now, going forward, whether this is a right approach, there are two sides here. Whether this is a right approach, should the President taken this recourse, or was there any other approach that they should have taken? Please understand, one set of experts argue that this is a right step taken by the government. Why? Under Article 142, citing this article, the Supreme Court of India was issuing various judgment, has issued various judgments in the recent time period. There have been many critics of these judgments which have been issued. For example, the Vice President of India called the Supreme Court the super parliament. The critic was, how can Supreme Court of India issue an order, or basically change the constitution which has been framed by the legislative assembly or the constituent assembly? They do not have that kind of a power, etc. So the argument is, by taking this particular step under Article 143, the 14 questions which have been put forward by the President to the Supreme Court, this is the right approach. Let the Supreme Court of India now clarify what is their stand, what is their position in this particular case. And moreover, another criticism has been that when the Supreme Court of India can change, by effectively issuing these orders like this, can change the provisions of the provisions of the Constitution. What do I mean by provisions of the Constitution? The governor under Article 200 and 201 has certain powers regarding the bills. But the order or the judgment of Supreme Court of India is effectively altering the powers of the governor, which are given under Article 200 and 201, which is nothing but changing constitutional provision. In such cases, don't you think it should be a constitutional bench which will do this, not a two-judge bench of Supreme? Right? And the third point is, why should the government file, right? Let's say a presidential review like this. Why should the government go for a presidential reference? They should have gone for a review petition. Understand the process here. If a Supreme Court order or a judgment is issued, you can appeal against that, which is called as a review petition. Review petition falls under Article 137. And if review petition is also, right, let's say rejected, in such cases, you can file for curative petition. You can file for curative petition. Again, curative petition is an Indian judicial innovation. There is no article. It is an innovation of Indian judiciary. So there is a process for it. Why did Government of India directly go for a presidential reference? There have been political parties as well as experts who have criticized Government of India citing this. But I hope you understand here, the counterpoint to this argument is, even if the Government of India would have gone for review petition, the same bench would have taken up the matter. The same bench would have taken up the matter. What will change? Nothing will change. The same judge will look at, or same bench will look at it. Where the argument of the Government of India is, it should be the constitutional bench, not a two-judge bench handling such cases or issuing such orders. And moreover, one more point of criticism against the judiciary is, this is an issue between state and a center. This is an issue between state and a center. Governor is appointed by the center. The state of Tamil Nadu has certain issues regarding the governor holding the bills, not giving the assent. In such cases, the matter should have been held under or heard under original jurisdiction provision of Indian Constitution, Article 131. Why has the Supreme Court of India issued an order or a judgment under Article 142? Right, so I hope you understand these are some of the criticisms or some of the arguments and counter arguments which have been raised in the context of the presidential reference regarding the order or the judgment issued by the Supreme Court of India under Article 142. Before I go forward, I want to add one point here. A lot of you, because you are reading Article 142 in the context of political issues, you'll be under the impression that Article 142 is associated only with political issues. Absolutely no. I hope you understand. Absolutely no. I'll quote you one example in recent times. There is a company in India, JSW. There was an order very recently issued by the Supreme Court of India regarding JSW, which has created a lot of ripples. Jindal Steel. Jindal Steel, couple of years ago, had acquired one more company, Bhushan Steel. Bhushan Steel. And this particular acquisition, which was approved, which has been completed, it's been more than 4 years. Now, Supreme Court of India has issued an order cancelling the acquisition, nullifying the acquisition. I hope you understand. The Supreme Court of India, under Article 142, has issued a judgment very recently where they say the provisions under IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, have not been followed correctly. Hence, we are basically nullifying or cancelling the acquisition of of the Bhushan Steel by the Jindal Steel. And this after 4 years of the company being acquired by Jindal Steel. which has created a lot of ripples in the insolvency and bankruptcy market. And this is not the only issue. There is one more issue also regarding arbitration. Supreme Court of India has issued an order under Article 142 again, saying that Supreme Court has every right to make modification to the orders issued by arbitration panels. I hope you understand there are multiple judgments which have been issued by the Supreme Court of India under Article 142 or quoting Article 142, not just associated with the subjects in polity, but also associated with the subjects in Indian economy. Okay, associated with this, one MCQ here, MCQ 104. Consider the following statements. The opinion tendered by the Supreme Court under Article 143 is binding on the President. The Government of India Act 1935 also had a provision to seek the opinion of the federal court. This is a new statement. Be very careful. Third one, Article 143 mandates that the presidential reference must be heard by a constitutional bench of 5 judges. How many of the statements are true? Do let me know in the chat section. Otherwise, I'll give you the answer after some time. Don't worry. Now, I've clubbed two articles here. One article from Hindu newspaper, where Supreme Court of India now has issued a very strict warning, very stringent warning to the officials from the Telangana government. I'll come to that. And there is one more very important article I felt very important related to reserved forest issue. Supreme Court of India has issued orders in the context of reserved forest. Let's go one by one. Let me start with the first one, Kancha Gachibowli forest. This was there in the newspaper. Sarmat sir has already had a detailed discussion associated with this particular issue. What is the update? Now, the Supreme Court of India has warned the officials of the Telangana government, saying that you better come out with a plan essentially to restore the forest in Kancha Gachibowli area. Simple. Right? This is an area which is having an acreage of 400 acres. That is the area of 400 acres. Around 100 plus acres was destroyed by the officials of the Telangana government using bulldozers and other equipments. Supreme Court of India took up the issue and issued an order to stop all the activities that is being conducted by the Telangana government in this forest region. And it asked the viewpoint of, let's say Telangana government in the form of what they will do in order to restore the forest in this particular region. Now, the Supreme Court of India is unhappy. Why? The Supreme Court of India says, rather than being remorseful, rather than saying that we will have a plan to develop forest again, the state government is defending itself. The state government is essentially defending itself and saying, we had every right to do this. We have followed all the procedures. We have taken more than 1 year to come out with all these guidelines, etc., etc. The argument of the justices is that if you had followed everything, why did you start felling the trees when there was a long weekend? Why did you start these activities when there was a long weekend? You could have started it on Monday. You could have started the activity on Tuesday. It feels purposely this was planned. All of this was pre-planned. You started felling of the trees in the middle of the night when there was a long weekend. And that's the reason now Supreme Court of India, Supreme Court has issued a warning to the officials, including the secretary of the state government of Telangana. You better come out with a plan to restore the forest now. Otherwise, we will not even hesitate to send some of these top officials to the temporary jail. Right. So this is one update. Second, this is more important. Please make a note of this. This was there in today's Indian Express. What was the issue here? The forest is divided into different categories. There is a categorization of the forest in India. For example, as per Indian Forest Act, Indian Forest Act 1927, you have reserved forest, the category of forest, reserved forest. You have protected forest. You also have village forest. These are the categories of forest which are classified as per Indian Forest Act. Out of all the three, the most protected, I repeat, the most protected is the reserved forest, wherein no human activities are allowed until and unless, right, they are specifically allowed by the forest official. Right? No activities. Once it is declared as a reserved forest by the state government, no human activities will be allowed until and unless you take the approval from the forest officials and conduct a certain human activities in this region or in this area. Now, what has the Supreme Court of India observed is in some of the states in India, some of the states, they have quoted the state of Maharashtra here because that is the case which is being heard. There was a region which was classified as a reserved forest. This reserved forest essentially was declassified or let's say denotified by the state government, was given to certain farmer, certain family, and later on this land was transferred to another company, a commercial entity. This was given to a company or a commercial entity for developing housing infrastructure, for developing a housing infrastructure. Supreme Court of India looked at the whole process and said, how can a reserved forest, which is the most protected region, how can the reserved forest be converted into a region where housing infrastructure is being developed? Their argument is that this is a prime example of a nexus between a politician and a commercial enterprise. It is a prime example where the land which is supposed to be protected, which is supposed to be used for specific purposes, which is protected like this, is being transferred for some other commercial requirement. And this has to be cancelled. This kind of a transfer shall not be allowed. Supreme Court of India has issued directives to the states now. What is the directive? Set up special investigation teams, SITs. Set up SITs and probe all the cases of, right, let's say, reserved forest where there is a transfer of this land for somebody else and this land is not being used for the intended purposes. And if it is found that the land has been transferred and is being used for some other users, not for the intended purposes, the state government should simply go ahead and reacquire the land, repossess the land. And to develop the land, certain charges or penalties should be imposed on the person who is using this land, recover the cost, use it to develop this particular land. This is an order which has been issued by the Supreme Court of India associated with the reserved forest land. Certain more important points here. Whenever a state has to basically transfer this reserved land or declassify this reserved forest land, please understand, first it requires the approval of the central government. It requires the approval of the central government. Why so? Because remember this, there is an act, Forest Conservation Act of 1980. Under the provisions of the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, the provision simply says before the complete land has to be classified like this, or part of the land has to be declassified, give it for some other purposes, give it to somebody else, etc., etc. In such cases, in all such cases, the state requires the prior approval of the central government. And Supreme Court has found that this has not been followed by the state government in many cases. Hence, right, such cases of land transfers, right, should be cancelled. The land should be reacquired by the state government. Done? Everybody is okay? MCQ 105. Consider the following statements. Indian Forest Act allows a certain human activities by default in the reserved forest for which no permission is needed. The states are allowed to declassify or denotify the reserved land or reserved forest without any prior approval of the central government. The reserved forests are constituted by the state governments. How many of the statements are true? Do let me know. I'll give you the answer after some time. Don't worry. Next article, an update. Simply an update. What is update here? In the last couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure you have heard of Indus Water Treaty, IWT. The Indus Water Treaty, which was mediated by the World Bank, agreed to by India and Pakistan, signed and implemented from 1960, basically imposes certain restrictions on the usage of river waters by India. That is, there are certain rivers, right? The rivers are such as the Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab, Western rivers, because Eastern rivers are given to India, Western rivers. IJC, India's Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab, these particular rivers. What kind of, right, let's say storage can be developed by India? Can we develop dams, construct dams on India? Right, how much amount of water should be released by India, etc. All of those essentially are covered under the Indus Water Treaty of 1960. This has been done in order to ensure that there is a continuous supply of water to the region of Pakistan, and there is no sudden increase which will destroy the agriculture sector, and there is no sudden stoppage of the flow of water which is again going to hamper the economic activity in Pakistan. So that there is no flooding and no drought in either cases, we agreed to the provisions of the Indus Water Treaty 1960. And according to the provision, there are commissioners which have been set up on both the sides, India and Pakistan. Now the update. Listen to the update here. After the Pahalgam attack, after the terrorist attack in Pahalgam, the government of India, amongst all the other measures, announced that they would be simply putting the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. The government of India announced we are not going to have anything, we are not going to follow any provisions of the IWT now. We will decide, right, what we want to do with these western rivers. Now, before even this happened, before even this was announced by the government of India, listen to me carefully. In the last 2 years, government of India has been asking the Pakistani government to come to negotiations regarding changing the provisions of IWT. I hope you understand this. This is before the Pahalgam attack, not now, before the Pahalgam attack. So 2023, 2024, there were certain statements or certain, right, let's say the documentation which was provided by the Indian side to Pakistan side to have a renegotiation, to have a relook of the provisions under Indus Water Treaty. Why? What is the requirement? Right? What is the requirement of this kind of a renegotiation that government of India wanted earlier? The government of India is of the viewpoint that what is the demography, what is the population, what kind of economic activities are conducted in India, the climate change, etc., are completely different today compared to what it was in 1960s. So when the treaty was signed 1960, so these right things are completely different. The parameters are completely different today. That's the reason India wanted to hold negotiations with Pakistan, have certain changes in the provisions of IWT 1960. But after the Pahalgam attack, government of India said we are going to put all of this in abeyance. Now, one thing to note here is when we wanted to renegotiate with Pakistan 23 and 24, they did not show any kind of interest. They did not show any kind of interest. But after government of India announced to put the IWT in abeyance, now there is a letter which has been sent by the Pakistani side to the government of India to come to negotiation to have, right, let's say, talks about IWT now. They want to negotiate regarding IWT. But again, the viewpoint of government of India is very simple. The Ministry of External Affairs also has quoted this. We have decided we will put IWT in abeyance as of now. No talks from Indian side regarding any provisions of IWT. And so this is an update. Please make a note of this. Next one. There was one more article, interesting article in the headlines of Hindu newspaper. The defense minister visited visited the troops in Srinagar yesterday, and during the right talks, during the discussion, he floated or he basically said one statement. That is, the nuclear arsenal which is present in Pakistan should be put under IAEA watch. Right? Their argument is, or the argument of government of India now is, a rogue state such as Pakistan has nuclear weapons. Very often there are talks about nuclear weapons used, right, or the threat of nuclear weapons being used whenever there are talks of, right, let's say the disturbance between Pakistan and let's say India. So what should be done? In a rogue state such as Pakistan, which doesn't have a stable government like this, the nuclear facilities should be put under the watch of or the supervision of International Atomic Energy Agency. International Atomic Energy Agency. This is a statement which has been put forward by the defense minister. Now, what is this idea for putting under the supervision of International Atomic Energy Agency? Are there any installations in India which are under the supervision of IAEA? Let me address both of these questions. First question: what is the meaning of putting under the supervision of IAEA? Now, imagine there is a nuclear weapon facility, or let's say nuclear energy facility or the production facility. What if this nuclear material is used for some other purposes? For example, I will import nuclear material saying that I will use it for civilian purposes. That is, let's say, to produce electricity. I will import it and I will use it for creation of nuclear material. So there has to be a certain international organization which will keep a track of how much nuclear material has come into the country, for what purpose the nuclear material is being used. Is there, right, let's say, abuse of the nuclear material that is being directed rather than civilian purposes for military purposes, etc. That kind of, let's say, the assessment, that kind of a transparent methodology will be done by an agency at the international level by the name of IAEA. Now, the argument of government of India is Pakistan is a rogue state. The military will call the shots there. Military will be worried about its reputation always and not about the welfare of the people. In such cases, let's put all these nuclear installations under the supervision of international agency. Now, let me go to the second question. Are there any, let's say, facilities in India which are under the supervision of international agency? Listen to me very carefully. Back in the year 2008, there was a civilian nuclear deal that was signed between India and USA. And after that particular deal was signed, some of these nuclear facilities in India, right, that is the power production facilities in India, electricity production facilities in India, they have been put under the IAEA supervision. They have been put under the IAEA supervision. Reason being, we are importing the nuclear material, using this nuclear material to produce electricity. Hence, these installations which are using this will be kept under the supervision of International Atomic Energy Agency. So these are certain points associated with this article. Let me go ahead. In continuation of boycott Turkey or boycott Turkey, yesterday I had mentioned certain points associated with that. Now there are two very important developments. The government of India has postponed credentials ceremony featuring new ambassador of Turkey. Very important news. And the second one is, right, on the sidelines also, the first collateral, right, collateral damage has been registered now. That is, a company from Turkey, the a company from Turkey which used to provide ground handling services in multiple airports in India. Now the security clearance has been revoked. What are the points here? Let's understand. Point number one, let me start with this article. You have seen airports. In the airports, right, the airliners or aeroplanes will land, and when the aeroplanes will land, there'll be a lot of people who will be providing various services. Certain people will be providing services where they will be directing the aeroplane to go to a particular spot and park there. Once the aeroplane has been parked, right, let's say maintenance, repairs will be conducted, fueling will be conducted. Right, once all the, right, let's say planes will land and stop at a particular parking spot, right, the deboarding facilities will be provided. Once all the passengers are out of the plane, cleaning of the, right, aeroplane will be conducted. My dear, whatever activities I'm explaining right now, these are collectively referred to as handling activities. Is the point clear? These are called as ground handling activities. Now, there is a Turkish company by the name of Celebi. This particular company was providing ground handling services in almost around 7 to 8 airports in India. But because this is a company which is involved in the civil aviation market and foreign company present and operating in India, you require security clearance. You require security clearance. This security clearance has been cancelled by the government of India. That is specifically Bureau of Civil Aviation Services, BCAS. Bureau of Civil Aviation Services has cancelled the security clearances. Now they will not be allowed to provide these services. They will have to stop, or they have to put a pause, or let's say stop providing all these ground handling services. This is one point. Second very important point, whenever an ambassador or a representative of the government, which is part of, let's say, the external affairs ministry, etc., is appointed to represent a country, they generally undergo a process which is called as a credentials ceremony. There is a process which is followed in every country for that matter. For example, in India, let's say USA will appoint an ambassador, right, to India. Now, immediately the ambassador will not come and start performing activities. They will have to come, provide their credentials. Credentials means they will basically submit a document which is an order issued by the government of sending country. Sending country here would be USA. So in this particular case, there was a function that was supposed to be held in the presidential house. That is right, essentially during which many of these ambassadors, including the ambassador from Turkey, were supposed to provide the credentials to the President of India. Once the credentials are provided, they are formally recognized as a representative, as an ambassador of a foreign country. And that representation is important. That recognition is important. Why? Whenever a foreign official will come to India and they are, right, let's say, recognized like this, lot of protection is provided to them. And I hope you understand. Lot of protection is also provided to them. So argument is very simple here. It was supposed to be done. It was supposed to be held. Right. So the government of India at the last moment has cancelled this credentials ceremony. Many experts are arguing this is a part of, let's say, the policy of government of India to retaliate the policy of Turkey to support Pakistan between, right, or let's say in the recent times where frictions have erupted between India and Pakistan. Done? Right. Next article, just an update here. Some of the statements which have been given by Mr. Donald Trump are creating certain issues in India. One statement very recently, that is yesterday, when he was giving a speech in Doha, Mr. Donald Trump announced that India has offered zero tariffs to USA. Listen to me carefully. India has offered zero tariffs to USA. Right? What is the argument here? India and USA are negotiating a bilateral trade agreement, BTA. What are the details of the BTA? Yet to be made public. Whether India is going to offer these kind of exemptions or these kind of deductions, not yet decided, not yet made public, at least as of now. But as usual, Mr. Donald Trump, the president of USA, has stated that India is offering zero tariffs to USA exports into India. Now imagine the kind of confusion that it will create, the kind of ruckus that it will create. Meaning what? Whether USA will be allowed to export agriculture commodities into India. As of now, no. Because please understand, many of the agriculture commodities belonging to dairy sector, we have not allowed. We have not allowed these to be imported into India. Why? It is said that whenever feed is provided in the dairy sector in USA, whenever the feed is provided, certain animal products are used in the feed. Certain animal products are used in the feed. Now that is the precise reason government of India has not allowed these kinds of products to be exported from USA into India. Government of India says this will hurt our religious sentiment. It is against the religious practices in India. We want to consume milk, but we do not want the cow which is producing milk to consume, right, let's say, animal feed. or the feed which contains certain products of animals. It could be blood, it could be any other product like this. That's a reason, right? If you see, even when he was the president in the first term, they wanted to push these products into India. We have not accepted that. Now, suddenly, when the president of USA announces that, just out of context, right? No context whatsoever, simply announces that India is offering me zero tariffs, right? They are agreeing to zero tariffs now. Can you imagine what kind of confusion it will create? And on the other side, I hope you understand, on the other side, when Mr. Donald Trump announced that India is offering zero trade, the Sensex in India picked up. The Sensex in India yesterday has registered a pickup, that is, it has jumped by a large number. Just check out. The argument is one, this is, right, let's say, a statement which has created more confusion. And second statement, right, basically he said he has asked the Apple CEO, Mr. Tim Cook, right? He has asked the Apple CEO not to manufacture Apple products in India. I hope you understand. Not to manufacture Apple products in India. Reason being, America first. They will have to manufacture these in America. If they want to manufacture in India and send it to America, he says America will not accept it. But listen to me very carefully. Listen to me. Has Apple announced that they are going to invest money in India? Yes. Has Apple announced that they are going to invest money in America? Answer is yes. And if you're wondering, sir, how can they invest in both the countries? If Apple product has to be manufactured in India, investment has to be done only in India. If they are going to produce in India, then they will simply take it to USA and they basically export it to USA and sell it in USA. Listen to me carefully. What Apple has promised right now, they will invest in America to produce spare parts. Certain components which are required to manufacture the Apple products, the investment will be done in America. They will produce it there. Then they will bring these components to India along with many other products which are produced in India. They will assemble the Apple product, make it a final product. Now, will sell it in the Indian market as well as other markets. Right? But again, because of this kind of a statement that was issued by Mr. Donald Trump, there was again confusion created whether Apple will stick to its promise of investment in India, because already the investment right has been approved, lot of work has also started, etc. So these are the two things that are associated with, right, let's say, the international relations as well as the investments in India as well as America. Now, last two articles, just factual information. Last two articles, just factual information. One I've taken from Hindu newspaper, another one from Indian Express. One is the Pushkar Kumbh. The Pushkar Kumbh has been inaugurated. It has started. Point number one, please listen to me carefully. This is a different Kumbh. It is not associated with Kumbh Mela. All of you able to understand? It is not associated with Kumbh Mela. That's the reason I've given this. Right? Essentially, it is being held at Keshav Prayag, that is near a place, a village, Mana in Chhattisgarh. Right? And I hope you understand. This is being held in a confluence of two rivers, that is Saraswati as well as Alaknanda river. Although Saraswati is a mythological river, anyways, Saraswati as well as Alaknanda river. So this is right one Pushkar Kumbh. And come to the southern part of India. Come to the southern part of India. There is one more, right? Let's say confluence or congregation which is being held, Saraswati Pushkaralu. Saraswati Pushkaralu. This is being held in Telangana. This is being held in Telangana. The only reason I'm quoting both of them, just for factual information, can be asked in the preliminary examination. Can be asked in the preliminary examination. Be very, very careful. It is being held in Telangana. This is held once every 2 years. This is being held once every, 12 years, not 2 years, 12 years. And this is held in Kaleshwaram, Telangana. Right? Essentially, this is a state sponsored or conducted by the state government of Telangana. Right. So one is a Saraswati Pushkaralu. The idea or the objective behind this is, if you basically take a dip in this particular river, right? All of your sins will be washed away, just like the Mahakumbh. Okay, so this is one, and this is the second in two different parts of India. Both of them were inaugurated yesterday. So these are certain important articles I wanted to discuss in today's session. As usual, this is the QR code. After the session is over, upload this particular PPT on my Telegram channel. Now, what are the key answers? MCQ 104. Opinion tendered by the Supreme Court under Article 143 is binding on the President of India. Wrong. The Government of India Act 1935 also had a provision to seek the opinion of the federal court. This statement is correct. Please make a note of this. This statement is correct, right? That is, there was a section article, I'm sorry, section number 213. Section number 213, where Governor General would refer certain subjects or certain issues to the federal court. Earlier, it was called as a federal court, not the Supreme Court. Later, it was renamed as a Supreme Court. So, under Section 213 of the Act of 1935, Government Act of 1935, the Governor General had the power to refer certain subject to the federal court, seek the right inputs, advice from the federal court. Same argument, right? It is just an advice, no binding on, not binding on the Governor General. The Government of India, in fact, used this particular section, expanded it, and brought it under the Constitution of India. Article 143 mandates that the presidential reference must be heard by a constitutional bench of 5 judges, not 143 but 145. The third statement is incorrect. Right option for the question is option A. MCQ 105. The Indian Forest Act allows a certain human activities by default in the reserve forest. No, it completely prohibits any kind of human activities. If anything is allowed, that has to be specifically allowed by the forest official. Okay. Second, the states are allowed to declassify, notify the reserved land without any prior approval of the central government. Incorrect. According to the provisions of the Forest Rights Act of 1980, the states require the prior approval of the central government. Reserved forests are constituted by the state government, that is announced, identified by the state government. Yes, right option is option A. Now, if you have any kind of questions regarding whatever I've discussed today, please do let me know. Otherwise, I will close the session. Before I take up the questions from your side, this session is comprehensive. I've covered articles not only from Hindu but also from Indian Express. So, if you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Okay. Sir, I want to ask economic question that were asked in a test series. Since they were MCQ form, I cannot ask here. My dear, when I take up a doubt resolution session, you can ask me that particular question. By the way, tomorrow, I'm taking a doubt resolution session essentially for those who are appearing for prelims. I hope you understand. Appearing for prelims 2025. There is a doubt resolution session, the link for which I've already pasted in my Telegram channel. If you are appearing for 2025 and if you have any doubts regarding Indian economy, join the session, get your doubts resolved. Okay. Uh, how Pak military focuses on reputation, not on welfare. My dear, right now, right, there are so many economic issues that the Pakistan is facing. It is basically approaching IMF, asking IMF to basically provide loans so that economy will not right fall into crisis. In fact, there was a statement which was given by the defense minister. I don't, I again, not to deviate the discussion here. Defense minister said these are beggars with nuclear weapons. Indian defense minister quoted that Pakistan is a begging nation with nuclear weapons. But again, right, don't enter into all of those right. Let's say discussions. Strictly, basically limit yourself to what is the requirement for UPSC. Okay. Next question. How does Indian share market impact a Donald Trump announcement? My dear, when Mr. Donald Trump will announce that I'm going to conduct a huge amount of a trade unlike any kind of a trade that has been done in the past, right? The friendship will be unlike anything in the past, etc. It is generally taken as an indicator in the market for the improvement of relations. If there are better relations between India and USA, it is good for the market, it is good for the economy. That's the reason you will see a blip, you will see basically a jump in the stock market. Okay, Rohan. Sir, I'm in class 11th. Should I focus on school or UPSC preparation? My dear, focus on your UPSC. I'm sorry, focus on your school, not UPSC. Focus on your school preparation right now. Once you enter into graduation, maybe let's say you take a BTech graduation, maybe in the second year or third year, you can, right? You can focus on UPSC. Not right now. Enjoy your school days. Once you enter into UPSC preparation, you will basically be remembering of the school days only. Ask those people who are writing prelims now. How due to FTA investment increases in countries? My dear, generally when you focus on the FTAs, or let's say you sign FTAs with other countries, it will promote a lot of, let's say, benefits, a lot of exemptions being provided by member countries. When these kind of tax exemptions or let's say the benefits are provided, it will promote a lot of investments between these countries. Automatically, it will promote. Okay. Ah, Rohan, see, Adarsh is saying, Geo, Khelo, or Maza Karo. Do that. Now you can do that. Maybe in the second or third year of your graduation, focus on UPSC. Okay, done then. So that's it from my side. Take care. See you next time when I take up the Hindu newspaper analysis. Till then, take care. Have a great day. Bye.